Board of Commissioners of the Housing Authority, City of Freeport, on August 25th, 2017, and it's 12:01 now. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order, and can you take roll call? Oh, you know what, we didn't put Pledge of Allegiance on here, on the agenda. Can we go ahead and stand for that?
Okay, you want to do it before you do the roll call?
Well, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. we got it.
Okay. Commissioner Smith Norman,
Here.
Commissioner Newton, Commissioner Beck,
Here.
Commissioner Harrell,
Here.
Commissioner Reimer, Commissioner Schultz, here. All right.
Okay, next on the agenda, approval of the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And next, we have public comment, and I just want to remind everybody to keep it at 3 minutes. Yes?
Okay. Steve Carroll, Freeport, Illinois. I'm going to read a letter that the presiding officer of the Housing Authority, Jody Miller, wrote to Brenda Westfall, Jennifer Smith Norman, and Larry Williams. And here we go. Dear friends, this letter is being directed to you as a result of statements made during an open session of the Freeport City Council last evening. Specifically, a member of the public, Mr. Steve Carroll, indicated that he had directed multiple Freedom of Information Act requests to the Freeport Housing Authority recently, which had not received a response. Upon further review, it is apparent that there has already been an adverse finding by the Office of the Attorney General on December 21st, 2016, Public Access Opinion 16-012, directing the Housing Authority to provide certain information to Mr. Carroll, which was evidently withheld under similar circumstances. Denial of access to public documents is a serious matter, and any allegation of such activities merits an equally serious inquiry. I am, therefore, asking the Board of Commissioners of the Freeport Housing Authority to conduct a prompt investigation into these allegations. In particular, I believe it is important to know what requests have been received from any source, what responses have been provided, and the basis for withholding any responsive documents. I would also like to know what steps the Housing Authority has taken to ensure satisfaction of its obligations established by the Attorney General's decision of December 12, 2016. As a separate note, it was mentioned that Mrs. Westfall has not completed requisite FOIA training since 2015. As we are all aware, the designated FOIA officer must complete this training on an annual basis. I have not independently sought to verify this with the state's public access counselor, but would ask that confirmation of current training be provided along with other requested information. I would expect that a formal response could be provided by the Board of Commissioners no later than October 1st, 2017, as this information should be readily available. If there's a problem with this or an objection to the request, please let me know immediately. City of Freeport, Jody Miller, Mayor. Some time ago, I told Mrs. Westfall she was committing career suicide by allowing her name to be on some of these FOIAs that have been messed with. I think Mrs. Westfall needs to go. And I think Mr. Williams is culpable in this also. The board is going to look at this, and I told Mr. Williams too, that if you want somebody coming in here sticking their nose in it, keep it up. Well, somebody is now interested, and there's going to be more coming. You cannot hide this, and I don't know if Mr. Williams was going to pass this letter on to you, which is why I read it, because Mr. Williams withholds information on a regular basis. Thanks.
Thank you.
I'm going to respond to that. I'm going to
Larry,
respond to
Larry,
that.
Miss,
I'm going to
I don't
respond
think,
to that.
listen, I don't think we should make it a practice of responding. I think we should wait and take care of this when we get new general
With
counsel.
all due respect, if
I think we
if
should
someone
wait
comes
until we
publicly,
get
if
general
someone
counsel.
comes publicly and make an accusation, I have an obligation to respond. Especially when he's saying that I intentionally withheld information
Okay.
from him or anyone else. The letter came in the mail today, which was also addressed to you, to your home address. So saying that I would withhold that doesn't make any sense. And so I do feel that it's my responsibility to respond when someone makes that form of accusation in public.
But let's just, I think it's just, we should wait just till we do have some general counsel that can, help
Do we
us
need to
make
wait
a
for it?
response.
Right, what, I
He
mean,
pretty well shot the hell out of Brenda's reputation, and I'm not entirely sure why.
I just don't think we should make it a practice to responding to public comment.
Oh, I'm not thrilled with that either, but I'm not thrilled
But
with the
we
public
shouldn't
comment.
be engaging in, the public has a spot on our agenda to
Yeah.
address us. It's like they cannot address the board once the board starts meeting. That's why they're given an area on the agenda to address the board. But
Not
we
true at all.
shouldn't engage in dialogue with the public because that interrupts our meeting.
so we're running the meeting like they run city council, correct? And so I have been to several city council meetings where a member of the public has given comment and the mayor has responded. And so he responded, and I'm responding based on some of his accusations and what he said as it was directed to me and Brenda Westfall. Those are false statements. I have not withheld any information from the board or a member of the public.
Let's move on.
I would like to be heard. My name is Vicki Brinker, 10-year employee here at the Housing Authority. Good afternoon. It seems that your blogger wanted to give his version of what the word spineless means in a recent blog about the last HACF board meeting. Yes, I did say your blogger, because there are statements in his blogs that clearly were fed to him by one or more board members in attendance here today, making it obvious who feeds this lowlife the half-truths and ignorant statements he spews about the HACF on a regular basis. Did I say ignorant? Why, yes, I did. So while we're on the subject of ignorant, let me tell you what ignorant is, and believe me, in this case, ignorance is not bliss. Ignorant is a board member who speaks on the subject like Red, even though they have no clue what it truly is or how it works, because no member has taken the time to really educate themselves on the subject. They would rather see the bad aspect of RAD. Maybe they have friends or family members who are landlords in Freeport, or maybe they themselves are landlords. And with the RAD project radically improving public housing apartments, they feel their properties will now be in competition with public housing. Whatever the reason, it makes no sense not to find out all you can through education and not backstreet gossip. Does any one of you know what the acronym RAD stands for? RAD makes it possible to renovate public housing apartments through money received from investors, which would otherwise not be possible due to the cuts in government budgets. It's a partnership between public housing and private parties. Any money for rental assistance, relocation assistance, etc., comes from the money given by investors to the project and not, I repeat, not from HACF funds as accused. It comes from the investors. Can't anyone get that concept? Or would you rather just throw out allegations that were given money for no apparent reason? Yeah, I'm not up. 3 minutes is not up yet, ma'am. The only reason that's shady, what's shady, is the board's failure to educate themselves on the information rather than use it as a weapon against the man giving it. Mr. Williams has offered several opportunities for this board to attend the HUD required courses for board members, and I'd like to ask how many of you have taken course 1 since sitting on this board as early as December of 2016. Please, as our board, we beg you to educate yourselves, as we have, to get true understanding of this rad project and what a great opportunity it is. Ignorant is also seating a resident board member who clearly has no idea what his role as a resident board member is. Because he is a board member, he has this grandiose idea of himself, believing he knows what the HUD policies and procedure are on any given workday here at HACF. His need to advertise himself as the resident board member is posting a large sign on his front door after his own annual HUD housekeeping inspection, now announcing that he knows the law in Illinois and that we are not allowed to do this or that, when, by the way, he had no clue what he's talking about because he didn't take time to educate himself.
3 minutes
Yeah,
are up.
3 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. We'll go ahead and move on. Next item on the agenda is commission request for documentation. You got a motion?
Don't need to make a motion, we need a discussion.
Um,
In the July meeting,
I thought we had a motion, second, open up for discussion. Okay.
in the July meeting, Mr. Williams announced that he was concerned about the level of attorney's fees that were being accumulated during the year. And I asked, why were we having such attorney's fees? And the young lawyer for the Housing Commission, in her naivety, replied that it was all these emails that go back and forth between our offices. And I said, what emails? And I wanted to copy them because I wanted to see what we were paying for. And nobody objected to that, and so I thought I would get them. And 2 days later, when I hadn't got them, I asked her again specifically to send those emails so that I could see what we were paying for. And I found out that you denied that to happen. At least that was alleged. And so I said, okay, fine, we'll do it the hard way, and we'll file a FOIA. And the next day, the attorneys resigned because they didn't want any part of this nonsense. So I filed a FOIA, and then we talked to the Attorney General's office, and they said, well, really what you need to do is file a different kind of FOIA. So I did that on August 1st. That allowed for 5 days to respond to that FOIA, just like Mr. Carroll's FOIA. The FOIA was addressed to you, Jennifer, and you immediately asked for an additional 5 days because you didn't have time to do it. That's the last response we've had. That should have been done by August 10th. It was not done by August 10th, so I filed an appeal to the Attorney General's office, who is now investigating this part of it. And pretty soon we'll get a letter just like we got a letter from Mr. Carroll saying, why haven't you responded to this FOIA? And the difference is that it will be addressed to you, Jennifer, because you're the individual involved. Now, you might want to suggest that you don't want to give up these documents because of attorney-client privilege. The problem with that is that when we hired the attorney, we hired the attorney to represent the board, to represent the Housing Commission, excuse me. And as such, the Housing Commission consists of Mr. Williams, Ms. Westfall, all of the employees and staff that work here, along with the board as a common entity. It does not represent any one individual. So you can't have, I've been advised that attorney-client privilege does not extend to common entities as a board. We are all one. So you can't use that as a defense to not give me the documents. You can use attorney-client privilege if you chose to have them represent you as an individual, but not as a member of the board. The problem with that is that if you choose to have, you better have them agree to that before you make that statement, because then it would say that they're complicit in defrauding the Housing Commission of money, because the Housing Commission has paid their legal bills. You haven't. So they haven't acted as your individual attorney. They represent us. You have no excuse not to give me those documents. Why am I concerned? Why does this concern you? Okay, I'll tell you why. Because in fiscal year 2015, for the whole 12 months, the Housing Commission spent $2,481 in legal fees. For 2016, we spent $14,000 on legal fees. For 2017, which was the beginning of the RAD program documentation, we spent $19,729. And in the 5 months that Henshaw was our attorney this year, we have spent $40,000 on legal fees. I'd like to know why. What in the world did we do to generate $40,000? We haven't accomplished one thing as a board. We're not doing anything with RAD 2. We're not doing anything with RAD 1. All of that's taken care of. What did we spend $40,000 on? That's what I'd like to know. Now, the problem is, you're late in getting me these documents. And I just don't understand why you're choosing, just like the mayor said. You don't have the right to deny me those documents. So what's gonna happen?
So you filed with the PAC office?
Oh, yes.
Okay. And I'll wait to hear from them. Well, first I asked for an extension because I had a major family emergency. My daughter had to have surgery.
Okay.
So I asked for extension on that, and then in the meantime, after the extension, I was going to turn over the emails to Henshaw to have them review it, because that is really the procedure that they suggested we follow. But unfortunately, they resigned and they were done August 18th.
Mhm.
So I'm waiting for new counsel to come on so we can turn them over to them, they can review it, and then I can release it to you. I think with
Why do they need-
potential litigation going on right now, it's probably not a smart move until we get general counsel back on board and they can review it.
What makes you think that that would be a danger? If these are legitimate emails back and forth.
Roger, that is my answer.
Well, I'd like to add something. Back when Henshaw was our attorneys, they were aware of the FOIA request. Roger sent the FOIA request directly to the attorneys, same as Robert Reimer did. Robert Reimer sent the FOIA request that then the attorneys told us this is how you're going to respond. We responded to that FOIA, gave them all the information that they asked for, and sent it also to Robert Reimer. When Mr. Schultz made the FOIA request, it was handled completely different than it was with Robert Reimer. I then sent them an email saying that per the bylaws, which at the time the attorney said is ambiguous, the bylaws has been on the board agenda for 8-9 months. If the attorney who is representing the housing authority felt that the bylaws were ambiguous, it was his role and responsibility to give feedback and to change the bylaws. That never happened. So he's saying it's ambiguous because he did not want to comply with what the bylaw said. They were aware of Roger's FOIA request well in advance of them not being here anymore. At the last board meeting, Roger spoke to Jim Courageous and inquired about the FOIA. He responded that he didn't know anything about it and that he would follow up with Jennifer. The FOIA request came to the authority. We then forwarded it to Jennifer. She got an extension, and then the FOIA officer followed up. She responded, as she responded here, that she was waiting for the Henshaw attorneys to review them, and then a couple days later she said, well, they didn't, they resigned. It seems inconsistent to me for it to be handled this way when it's a commissioner. It's inconsistent.
Aren't any of the others of you on this board concerned about why we're spending $40,000 on legal fees?
Why don't you just pull the attorney bills and look at that?
They don't tell me anything.
The
They
full
say-
amount of whatever the dollar amount is not contained in her emails. They bill you, the attorney bills you. We did this, so I billed you this. We
Yes.
did this, I billed you this.
Yes.
It should give you a listing of, I have a listing of what it was. So why wouldn't it answer your question?
Because it doesn't
just
tell
her
me.
emails will
It
not
doesn't
tell
tell me
you.
what they're talking about. It doesn't tell
But
me
on the
what the
bills,
concern
it's
is.
not just her emails. There's other things on there as well. It's not just her discussions with the attorneys. There's other things